Uh, Good afternoon, everyone. I hope I'm audible. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Yes. So we are here with the first class, the revision class. So before starting, I will just try to brief what is our objective of this revision class or this entire series. See, the objective or the aim of this particular entire revision series is basically to give you a quick revision into all the topics. So we have covered certain topics in the value-added classes, and we have skipped certain topics in the value-added class because of the time. But in this particular class, so or in this particular series, what I'm going to do is we'll be giving you quick revisions of throughout all the topics. So we have given you a timetable. So accordingly, we'll touch upon all the basics ideas. So in specific areas, we have given certain importance to certain particular areas, certain specific areas during the value-added classes. So I won't be touching too much into that area per se, but perfectly, I'll try to summarize the entire modules. So you guys know about the time constraint, but still, we'll try to both of us will try to basically focus on the key areas, and again we'll try to give you the idea of the past 5 year questions, what kind of question they asked, and more importantly, I'll try to give some of the application thinkers. Also, when it comes to the paper two, also when it comes to any other regular areas. So I'll try to link up both the paper one and paper two. And we'll try to, when it come to paper two, we'll try to give you more of sort of examples of each stuffs. So what I'm going to do is, today I'm going to take with the introduction part. So in the introduction, we'll be briefly explaining the couple of topics. If you remember in the value-added classes, we have touched certain areas, particularly the focus was on the new public choice, the liberalization, the NPM, all those stuffs. I explained why we focus on those categories or the last portions of the syllabus. The reason for us focusing much or more on the last part of the syllabus is because the past few years the question has been asking from all the public choice approach, all the NPM, all the good governance, the challenges areas. And from 2019 onwards, or from the question, there are a couple of questions of us in the first part also. That is the meaning, the Wilsons, the evolution, the NPA side questions. Uh, Again, we focus on a couple of areas, and Munizar has given you a couple of examples when it comes to public choice, again, and the challenges and the NPM sides. So today, my key focus will be on the first part. And the basic first part means I'll go through in brief about it. Within this limited time, I'll go through in brief what we studied in a very crisp manner. And one thing that I wanted from you is that see this is a first class, right? So I just want a kind of feedback whether after the class, not just now, after the class, whether this was the kind of classes that you need or not, or whether you need any kind of improvement, or whether you need any kind of suggestions, if there is. Okay. So we'll collect that with the end of the class, and again, accordingly, we will change. So it's all upon you because the classes is just intended for you guys to get a refresher. So if you whatever you wanted, just tell us. So, okay, right. So the first class, as I told you, I'm going to be. I have designed the class as a summary, as well as when it comes to Wilson. Uh, I've made some applications. So this is I will show you when it comes to Wilson how we are approaching the thinkers. Also, when it comes to other areas also. So I'll show you how examples of where the thinkers can be placed, how paper one what questions is getting marks, etc. So let us just not just discuss the story, but let's go into the key part. See, already I've shown you this particular micro syllabus and this divisions, and look at told you what kind of question they were asking. You can see that in the public choice approach across the years, the focus has been on public approach. That doesn't mean they will ask another question. That does not mean they will ask another question. Not sure. So, what is the specialty in this particular particular part is that? Uh, oh, okay, 1 minute, 1 minute. Lost. Okay. What? Yeah, let me continue. We don't need the slides right now. So, what is the specialty in this particular part is that see, every time or everywhere, whenever there is a the question from the introduction in the part one. So, in introduction in part one, all the questions have been asked. The first question, for example, the paper one, the part of the first question, A question will be introduction. So we have seen for all the 5 years analysis, the part 1A question is throughout introduction. So there will be a compulsory introduction question that you should understand. And probably they in 2022 they've asked in 1D also. So there were two compulsory questions were asked in introduction. So that was rare. They never asked two compulsory questions from a same part, but last year they asked two compulsory questions from introduction itself. So it can be possible. So introduction will always be there. The pattern of the question is such in a way that one A will be introduction, one B will be about administrative thought, anything. And about C, D, and E, it may vary accordingly. But last year, question number 1A and question number D, both were introduction. And what about the other questions? Yes, it can be asked as a 20 marker, it can be asked as a 50 marker, any type they can be asked. So in sense, there can be a minimum of 3 questions, every year from the introduction part. So that is a kind of idea that we have seen in the last couple of years, like a 3 minimal questions. It can be a 20, it can be 15, it can be a 10, or it can be a 20, 10, 10, and 20. So it is kind of minimal. So public choice approach needs focus. Again, challenges of administration, again, the good governance, again, NPM also needs focus. These are some relevant topics that we can see, but we cannot skip those topics, which are very easier. Meaning scope, again, they are asking questions. Wilson is a surprise because it has been quite some years that Wilson has been asked, yet to ask. But if it is a question, can be a 10 marker, it can be a very straightforward, simple question. So we'll just go through Wilson also. You cannot skip any particular area because it can be potential direct question, it's an easier question. So evolution is also a very direct question. So again, you can get it for 20 marker, can get for 10 marker. So I'm not greatly focusing on evolution, but still I'll go through a couple of ideas also. Yeah, so these are the type of questions. These are what are the kind of questions they ask from the first part. I already I have shown you these ideas in the first value added class itself. See, from the initial part, from the meaning, scope, significance part, again, they were asked questions from administration. That is a very general way they ask the questions. They ask about public administration, which means contextual, constantly reinvented, the translation of role of politics. Again, the need to get conceptualized, the publicness. So they are basically asking about the scope and the meaning part. And they ask about, in particular, the scope of question, boundary, whether the scope is boundaryless, and also there are questions from public and private administration. And in Wilsonian terms, they ask a question which is very general, but you can add also in the name of the Woodrow Wilson. Administrative questions are not the political questions, like similar questions like that. So these are the very basic question patterns that you can get from the meaning, scope, and significance. So when it comes to meaning, scope, and significance, my first concepts goes to meaning or the meaning of public administration. So probably when you study public administration, your beginning point is defining administration. Then you will learn about what is public and what is public administration. And In a lot of ways, you can define public administration. A lot of thinkers and scholars have defined public administration, but what is the crux of what is the meaning of public administration? It has number of meanings. Probably you might have learned about all those kind of traditional view, the modern view, the narrow view, the broad view, the political, the legalistic view. There are a lot of views from the public administration. A lot of people have defined again public administration from different perspective. So probably this is the shortest way, in a shortest manner, you can think about what is the meaning of the public administration. I'm not going to explain in a sentence or giving you a notes right now, because that's not a purpose. But in a very short, crisp manner, I'm trying to tell you what it means by traditional view. You guys know about traditional view. Traditional view of public administration basically say that public administration is all about implementation of policies. It's all about doing certain things. So it's all about doing certain things, working certain things, and so though all those people who believe that public administration is all about policy implementation and not about policy making or policy version, you can say that. And this is the idea of the traditional use. So, who again in brackets? I have this is where I'm going to help you out there. So, in bracket, I have written out who is the thinker when it comes to, you can link with the traditional view, when it comes to the modern view, when it comes to the political, the legalistic view. So this is a very short crisp thing. So policy implementation, you can talk about Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson specifically talks about, he fluctuated. You know that in his essay he fluctuated from one version to another version later on. But initially, he focused on being the executive type, the implementation type. So traditional view, you can say. So in couple of lectures, couple of literatures, you can see Woodrow Wilson in other views also. But try to follow one way. In the initial portion of the essay, he was a man who talks about the traditional view, the policy implementation view, and he talks about the traditional part of the public administration. So what is the difference between traditional and the modern view? Two contrasting views. It talks about the policy making. So the modern view considers that public administration is not just about policy implementation, it is also about policy formulation or policy making. So there are a lot of people who believe that public administration has to be, or it also contains the formulation of the policy making. So it has, again, people like Negro and Negro or talks about, and all about the modern view. So the traditional view, the modern view, it is a very simple version. And what about a very similar viewpoint? It's a narrow and a broad view. So narrow and broad view has a similar meanings that of the traditional, the modern view. If a traditional modern view talks about from the point of policy implementation, narrow broad view from talks about the point of who does that, or who are the people associated in the public administrations. So in the narrow view, say that it's all about executive branch of government. So you all know that what you mean by the executive branch. Executive branch means one who implements it. So the narrow views considers that who takes part in the public administration. So the broader view says that, again, not just the executives, it contains all those branches, like the executive, the judiciary, the legislature. And all. So very similar ideas. You can say itself in even in traditional or in the narrow view about Wilson, in the modern view, in the broad view, in the Negro and Negro in one part. So this is the same idea. So we are talking about the meaning of the public administration, how the questions may be asked. The questions may be asked in a very general manner. All you need to understand is whenever the question starts, whenever there's a very general question, identify the question from the topic. You can just identify the question. If it is not a Wilson, if it is not a Wilson, then yeah, if it is not a Wilson, you know that it's not the Wilsonian questions. And if it's not from the evolution, it will be very clear. It will be not from the NP or the NPM or the LPG. It's very clear. So the rest of the portions, probably the first portions, the questions can be from the meaning, scope, and significance. All right. Yes. Yes. So there are questions coming up. I'll clear up. Normal, I will clear up the question. All right. Sure. So the traditional, the modern, and narrow, the broad views. So these are the straightforward questions. I'll show you a couple of questions towards the end. Then I'll show you what kind of application that you can bring in. Then what about the political school? Again, I deal with, it says that public administration is not just implementing certain things, it's not just formulating certain things. It's all about even the resource allocation. It is not just a study of the state. It is all about the not about like a political science. It is not just a science study of the state. It is different from political science. It is all about the resource allocation also. So public administration is not just the study of the state, but also the resource allocation. Robert Dahl, David Easton are the people who talks about the political school, the idea of the political schools. Legalistic view. Again, people say that public administration is all about study of enforcement of laws. Enforcement of laws. See, the I hope I'm basically hitting you. Basically, the idea is the in brackets I'm giving you the name of the thinkers. All I need is that whenever there's a general question, whenever there is a meaning scope, whenever there is a meaning or the nature question, you can throw out in a wide variety of different meanings of public administration. There are certain questions, so I'll show you the questions toward the end and show you in certain questions what we mean about. Again, public view, welfare of the people. So there are so many thinkers who say that public administration is all about another public weal, the welfare of the people. So it deals with the welfare of the people. It should deal with the welfare of the people, not just study of the state, not just the enforcement of laws, etc., etc. Again, it talks about how we define public administration. Public administration is something that also deals with the welfare of the people. So Simon, again, Lindblom, Waldo, all the kind of people who believes public administration also involves the welfare of the people. So public weal view, the process view, how public administration should be dealt with, or what is public administration? It is a study of tools and techniques. You guys know about Gulick and Urvik, the post-decor view, the post-decor view. So when it comes to those kind of questions, kind of ways, just remember process view. If it is a process view, remember Gulick and Urvik. It is a public view. If you just remember. So when it comes to paper one, it is not just about writing examples. No, paper one, particularly the introduction part, particularly the thinkers part, we have to write the theoretical part. It only whether the question is asked about the contemporary relevance, the ideas that we can bring, or we are not going to bombard them with the general examples. One thing that you have to keep in mind is in paper one, we are not going to bombard the answer with the examples. No, I mean the current examples. No, we are going to write the theory. The marks fetches only when you write the theory. You have to substantiate, yes, with relevant minimal examples. Paper two, again, often all throughout all these test series, we have asked you to write examples whenever it is possible. Yes. But when it comes to paper one, our special focus was always on writing theory. Where is my theory? Where is that key word? So if you write about a lot about Wilson, not write about this political administration dichotomy, that particular term, you're not going to fetch the marks. So I want that keyword in the answers. So that is what we are trying to talk about. So when it comes to all these parts, it's not just about bombarding about it. No. So paper one, look, give me the theory. Give me the crux of the questions. So that is the one. So paper two, yeah, we can go. Even in the paper one, there are a lot of areas we can bombard with examples. We'll talk about that. Again, paper one, see if you remember your first examination, neither Munisa has talked to you about bringing a lot of contemporary examples. So we'll take out all the thinkers and we apply the thinkers in the contemporary examples. Not we apply all the examples in the thinkers. No, we take out the thinkers, ideas thinkers, we apply it in the general. When it comes to Wilson, you will understand what I'm really talking about. So let us move forward. Legalistic, the public view, process view, again, talks about the tools and technique, the process in which how public administration deals with. So these are how the definitions of a bad goes on. People also talks about it not just about the study about about the tools and techniques, but also the subject matter. Where we apply these subjects, it's very important. So what is one of the failure of Gulick and Orvik is Gulick and Orvik told that public administration is all about tools and techniques. Where will we apply it? It depends upon the context. Contextual manner, subject matter is important. So public administration also involves the studies of policies, subject matters, not just about the tools, all the planning, coordination, again, budgeting, reporting. No, it is all about how, when, and what point of time we are applying it. So it's all about the subject matter also. Also, it's about the market view. The people in the most modern view, you can say that it is not just talking about the state. We also talk about the non-state actors, the market institutions. So today, public administration is a multi-actor paradigm. Today, in the era of good governance, we have the governance or the good governance era. It's a multi-actor paradigm. So our idea, the meaning has been expanded. See, it is not just, it has moved from a single actor paradigm to a multi-actor paradigm. So when you study that organizational theory, when you study about public administration as an activity, it was all about this government in the first time, state in the one time. Right now, we are not just talking about state, we're talking in an expanded manner, right? There's a traditional one which talks about everybody is talking about state. It is about the policy implementation. Modern is about policy formulation or making. Executive branch is a narrow one. Broad is a all branch, all the three one. Political says about not just about the study of the state. It is a branch. We move from the political science. It's all about allocation of resources. Legalistic view, public will, process, subject matter, and the market view. Yes, whenever there is a question, you can write these name of the views, not just throwing out about all about implementation making. No, use the words like traditional, modern, again, political, legalistic, public view, process view. See, that is the theory that we are bringing in. So this is all about meaning, but with meaning, we are not moving out. We have also a couple of areas. The questions have been asked from these particular areas is the nature of public administration. For example, sometimes question may be asked about whether PABAD is an art or a science, whether it is a political science, whether we have moved away from political science, whether it's still a management science, or those kind of concepts. So this is the meaning in a very similar manner. We also deal with the nature of public administration. So what do you mean by the nature? Again, the narrow and the broad view. Again, people, you can say about all the same ideas. Like, see, narrow says that it is all about the executive one. It is all about implementation one. It is not just about the other words, the broadness or the policy formulation or the other two branches of the public administration. So there is also always what is the nature, means what is the characteristics of public administration. It has a broad view. There are people who talks about narrow view. There are people who talks about broad view. There are people who talks about public administration is all about managerial things. It's all about managerial things. Like it's all about mainly about the managing things. There are people like Gulick who talks about public administration basically includes the study of managerial activities. So what is a managerial activity? It is something that's supposed to do with all the managers or what the work a manager can do. No, it is not just about the managerial activities like managing certain things using certain tools and techniques. No, it is not. We have learned that if you move away from the classical theory, if you move to the human relations, behavioral, organizational, other organizational theory, you can understand that public administration is not just about the managerial view. It has a lot of other views. So there are people who talks about integral view. Maher, again, LD Weist, Demock, all saying that public administration is a study of all the activities of the organization. It is not about the managerial, it may be about the clerical, it may be of the manual, maybe about the technical nature. So it is a holistic view. So there are people who talks from the managerial viewpoint. There are people who talks from the integral viewpoint. So we can see that there is an integral public administration consists of as an integral process, which consists of all those activities, not just the managerial all activities. So the managerial activities, the integral activities. Also, we have a very famous thought process. We say the word public administration being instrumental activity. Instrumental activity means public administration is an instrument of the politicians or the people above us. So again, in instrumental view, public administration deals say that it is a tool of the politicians. Whatever the politicians saying, that they implement it. So that is the instrumental view. On the other hand, the discretionary view say that public administration is not having a certain kind of idea. No, it has certain discretionary view. It has its own independent. It can do its own activity. So there are a lot of ways. You imagine you can, about a district collector. District collector act in a discretionary view. So there are a lot of occasional work he or she has to act in a discretionary manner. When it comes to decision making at a field level, when it comes to a disaster, for example, when it comes to a particular item. So discretionary view is also possible. It is not just about all the things that are advised by the political masters. No, they are not acting as just an instrument. No, they are acting they can also act in a discretion. So we are talking about the nature. What is public administration? What that was all about the meaning about it. So today, here we talk about what is the nature, what are the characteristics, what all it should include the part. So there is a big question saying that whether PABAD is an art, whether public administration is a science, or is it an art or it is a science. There was a big question that whether the public administration is a discipline or a profession. Whether it is as same as political science. We all know that it is derived from political science. So the beginning of the public administration, you can talk about all about Wilson's essay. Political science is a philosophy that was taken up from back from 1,000 years back. Whether it's a management science, whether it is a social science. So there are a couple of questions in general, in a very general manner. You won't be understanding what should I. There are certain questions you might feel in the question paper. What should I write? This is a very general question. So those kind of very general questions are from this area, like the nature, the meaning, and the scope of public administration, where you can write in a broad manner about what is PABAD. So see, let me talk about what is whether the public PABAD is an art. So it is an art. Undoubtedly, it is an art. Why? Yes, we'll talk about why it is considered to be an art. See, for that, you know what is an art means. So art is any skill that can be learned with an effort. So if I define art as a skill that can be learned with an effort, public administration is also an art because it adopts again techniques like planning, organizing. So these techniques can be taught. You can be taught. I can teach you how to plan. I can teach you how to organize. Public administration can be taught, which means I can learn the skill of planning. I can learn the skill of organizing, right? So, which means something is an art. Art is something that can be a skill that can be learned with an effort. PABAD can be learned with an effort. So it is qualified as an art. So it is qualified. It's an art. People can be trained in an art. Yes, people can be trained in public administration. So in public administration, it is see when we define PABAD in a very narrow, in a very minimal sense, not narrow, in the minimal sense, we write it is a government in action. It is a government in action. So when it considers the government in action, it has to deal with various problems. These kind of problems can be solved with all these techniques. So when we learn these techniques, you can definitely consider public administration as an art. It is an art. You cannot say that it is not an art. What about whether it is a science? Generally, questions can be asked whether public administration is a science. Whether it's a science. Public administration is a science. Yes. Why? Well, let us talk about whether public administration is science or not. Yeah. Why these kind of ideas of science? See, when it comes to Wilson, I talk about Wilson. Wilson is the person who believes, who wanted to treat PABAD as a science. PABAD as a science. So, why the reason why probably you have learned about that during Wilsonian time, during his observation, he understood that anything that can be attributed as a science is something perfect. So public administration is also should be considered as a science. That is what Wilson told. So anything considered as science was considered the best. So he told that yes, PABAD should also be considered as science. But in reality, the reality is anything that should be considered as science has certain it should have some kind of qualifications. For example, science, any particular study should be considered as a science should have some principles that is universal. So when Wilson wrote his essay, one thing that he put forward was PABAD should be a science. PABAD is a science. It should be treated as a science. And you know what? He told that please kindly develop. We need to have some kind of principles. That's it. He never proposed any ideas, Wilson. So let me take you back to whether PABAD is a science or not. Yes, if you can say PABAD as a science, you have to have follow three ideas. The principles of PABAD should be universal, absolutely universal, and predictable. So whenever a particular study should be considered as a science, it should be universal and predictable. Take an example of Newton laws. Newton's laws is considered to be a science, which means it is universal. Wherever you go across any part, any corner of the world, it is something predictable. We know accordingly what is going to happen, and we know what is basically it is universal. So when if you go by this kind of definitions, like if you go by any subject to be science, it should be universal and predictable. But that is not, cannot be considered as a science. So is it an art? Yes. Is it a science? No, it is not, because you need to have universality. One thing, if it is needed to be universal, it need to have a universality. It need to be science, it need to be universal. So science is any part of study of of some universal principles. So it should be universal, it should be predictable. It should be predictable. So universality and predictability is not there. Predictability, we are bringing up more predictability. Again, if I apply this particular thing, what should be the end result? Yes, with a lot of information, with all the big data analysis, with all the kind of AIs, we are right now, we could predict what is going to happen. Predictability is becoming more and more possible. What about universality? No. Did public administration as a subject arrive in a universality? Not yet. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് if you remember all those principles, all those classical era concept, people say that I'm universal. Taylor scientific management, 5 volts 14 principles, Guldek-Ruiz Posdy-Cobbs and other principles, whatever Mooney-Rayleigh's principles, every person says that it was universal. We found out that it was not universal. Not universal. Neither the human relations nor the behavioral schools, nobody could give the universal approach. Even the CPA even went for the universality in the earlier part, in the Rick's time. They understood it is not possible. That is the reason why a new CPA has emerged. So you cannot have a universal principle in public administration. It is difficult. So we cannot have an idea that PABAD is a science. It's simple question. So you can say that public administration is not a science. So our knowledges are limited. So it keep on changing time on time. So we cannot derive in a universal manner. Understand universality is something that we should idea of universality. The aim of attaining universality should not be the aim about PABAD, because it's not possible. So it is not a science. Whether it's a discipline or a profession, yes, you can say that it is a discipline. So a subject can be considered as a discipline if it has two elements. One, it has a corpus of knowledge, and whether this knowledge is imparted in the institutions. Yes, today we have a lot of theories, we have corpus of knowledge, we have a lot of ideas about PABAD. And even it is taught in schools and colleges and universities. In the master's programs, we have public administration taught across the world, even in India. So it is a discipline. So it is a body of knowledge. It is defined by various concepts, and it is also taught about it. So it is a discipline. What about a profession? It is not yet a profession. So if public administration should be kind of any subject, be it any subject, considered as a profession, it should have again made some kind of ideas. It should have certain elements. Whether it should be whether we have a corpus of knowledge, yes, about have. Whether it's a prolonged training and education, yes. Whether it has a social responsibility, 100%. Whether it has a code of conduct, whether it has a parent body or association. Holistic way, no, it has no code of conduct. A code of conduct in a general code of conduct, which is applicable for every across every part. It is not for public administration. Whether it is an association or a parent body, yeah, we are on a verge of forming all those associations which have common name about what PABAT does, what PABAT should be. Yeah. It is in a formulation process. So it is a discipline, it is not a profession. Is it a political science? Yes, it is a political science, but there is a difference. It is derived from the political science. So what is political science? The study of state. What is PABAT? Study of state in action. Is there a difference? Yes. If it is a study, if it is a theoretical one, political science is a theoretical one, PABAT is a study of state in action. So if you remember the evolution part, see, if you remember the Nicholas Henry's evolution, there is a paradigm which says about public administration as a political science. Because when we went through a period of crisis, people have no idea whether public administration will stand alone, because it is a subject that is derived from political science. So we thought that we had the opportunity, we had all the idea to be a separate discipline. Separate discipline. Nothing happened. So people believe that it is a political science. No, it is not exactly a political science. It is all about not just a political science. It is all about the study in action. So it develops its own vocabulary, it develops its own tool. So it deals with the actionable part of the government. The theoretical part deals with the political science. The actual part, the philosophical understanding the state, is all about the political science. Public administration deals with the action part of the state. So is there any similarity? Yes. If both are equal? No. Public administration has its own stand. Political science has definitely its own stand. Its own stand. Public administration is only evolving thing. It is only getting evolved. So whether it's a political science, there are similarities. Whether it is truly political science, under the political science, no. Because there should be a difference. All right. Whether it's a management science, whether it's a management, again, another paradigm talks about the management science. So management means we study about all the tools and techniques of managing an organization. So all those like organization, planning, staffing, auditing, what etc. thing. So is it public administration? Is it include management science? Yes, it includes management science, all those ideas. But again, management science, we also saying that it has a good overlap with public administration management science. Is it same as a public administration management? No, because management science, managing a particular organization, when it comes to in a general manner, it talks about in from the viewpoint of efficiency, profits, etc. So we also talk from the point of efficiency. But in public administration, administration talks about efficiency in a proper way. Yes. In public administration, the objective is all about not just efficiency, but also equity, not just equity, but also achieving all those kind of democratic values, making sure participation, equality, fairness. So we have to understand we have more values when it comes to compared to the management science. Management science has a value of the efficiency and maximizing profits. But when it comes to public administration, it has borrowed certain tools and techniques. It has borrowed certain ideas. That doesn't mean it is basically management science. No. Again, we can say that it has borrowed the ideas from the public from the management science. It derived the ideas. It cannot be claimed as a particular. as a single entity. You cannot claim it as a single entity. It has a lot of similarities. Again, it has its own values. You can say so. Both sides can be addressed. It is a management science, yes, in some way. Is it the only management science? No. You consider PubAd as a sub branch of the management science? No. It has its own identity. Whether it's a social science, let's check whether PubAd is a social science or not. So what do you mean by social science? Like a study of society, of humans and interaction. Whether in PubAd we study about society, yes. If you remember all the ecology systems approach. Systems approach something we talks about environment or ecology. So it's all about the study of the people, humans. Yes. Do we study in PubAd? We consider the study of humans. Yes. The psychological study, the behavioral concept, the human relations approach. So public administration deals also with a part of society that deals with the human interaction with the government, with the people. So when we study the theoretical aspect, we can see that public administration also does a couple of ideas. Social science, the principles are predictable, but they are less universal. You cannot apply it at any part of the world. No, depends upon the context, environment. Social science is progressive. PubAd is also progressive. It is also evolving. It is not a static subject. It is a dynamic. It is an evolving subject. So public administration, as such, what is the nature means? Again, you can say that it consists of a variety of things. So public administration is all about, again, again, you can say that there's a good overlap with being a social science. Is it only social science? No. It has its own elements, but it has a good overlap with the larger kind of principles, a larger kind of ideas with the being a social science. So public administration, what is the nature about it? Please let me just remind you. It is an art. It is not just yet to be a science because universality is difficult. It is a discipline yet to be a profession. It is the idea that it is a political science. Yes, we do have similarity with the political science. Again, it is basically it is social science. Yes, it is basically the social science idea. True, whether it is a management science, we derive from the management ideas. So whether it is from different disciplines around the globe in different disciplines, we have taken public administration as its own elements. But whether we can portray PubAd as under any particular thing, no, it has its own unique things. So you cannot take it as just as a political science. No, no. So it deals with different ideas. So this is the nature about it. So that's the meaning, that's the nature. Very generic questions. Look at the question papers, very generic questions. Using these kind of ideas, you can throw out scope. Very important manner, direct questions. Whenever the question is public administration is or was kind of questions, like the general kind of question they ask about scope. In scope, there are two types of questions they can ask. They can directly ask scope of public administration as a discipline, scope of public administration as an activity. So I earlier also I told you whenever the scope comes, the person that you should mention is Dwight Waldo, because Dwight Waldo was a person who said that the scope of PubAd is based on government inaction, and he's the one who says that again we have a vacillating periphery. We'll talk about the idea. The scope flows from the meaning, right? The scope flows from the meaning of PubAd. So since the meaning is not well defined, you cannot say that the scope is also well defined. So it is basically flows from the meaning. There's a dilemma in defining the scope because of that. What all should be included, what should be excluded. So let us talk about the scope. Again, very similar thing that we have studied as a discipline. See, as a discipline, if there is a question specifically saying that as a discipline, write about as a discipline only. If there is a question, scope of public administration as just, you can write both as a discipline, as an activity. So before attempting a question regarding the scope, read the question whether specifically it has mentioned about being a discipline. If it is an activity, you can throw out various examples, various stuffs. Yes, we'll talk about that. So let us talk about being a discipline first. So what is Prabhat? Prabhat does not deal with all these techniques, etc. We can see that it can people consider it as it's a narrow view or a broad view, it's a modern or a broad view, um, post-decor view, subject matter view. Or earlier told, Prabhat is not just about study of the tools and technique. It is also about its application. Where will we apply? Whether it contain defense, whether it contain education, agriculture, social welfare, police. So there are different ways in which you can apply, or different areas in which you can apply for that. So as a discipline, as a particular discipline, public administration has evolved over the times. Organizational theories, we studied about how classical theories, again, how people have dealt, again, how Elton Mayo, how MP Fowler act as a bridge between the classical as well as the human relation theory. How Elton Mayo, through his Hawthorne experiments, had dealt with the human relations approach. How Herbert Simon, Chester Bernard all talks about behavioral point of view. How administrative ecology has developed. How again the ideas of those kind of leadership motivation concepts have been emerged out of this concept of the behavioralism. So we have seen several areas where public administration its scope has going beyond personal administration. One example: how a person should be recruited, how a person should be treated. Public that deals with that also. Financial administration deals with the finance, involves the government. Administrative ecology, the organization, the external environment, the internal environment, how people behavior of the groups, behavior of the individuals with people, how they behave in internal manner, how they become react in the external environment, comparative public administration, development dynamics, public policy analysis. So all those can be attributed as a discipline. The more the PABAD evolves, the more discipline as it comes. Which means the knowledge, what do you mean by discipline? I told you, it has a corpus of knowledge. So people are writing about it, people are talking about as a particular discipline. What should be taught or what should we teach in the schools and universities? So we teach PABAD in a very broader manner, right? We talk about the tools, technique, talk about the particular situation, talks about the organizational theory as such, personal, financial, ecological one, how system theories approach, CPA, development, policy analysis. All these things are PABAD as a so what about as an activity? Well, this is where you can add a lot of examples. The first, again, step where you can add general examples when it comes to introduction is scope of PABAD as an activity. General, you can write whatever you know about with a general examples. See, PABAD is all about as an activity. Activity means probably it is one of the means to attain what the people want. State one. So as an activity, public administration, the wording of public administration depends on people's expectations. What people expect from the government. So what do you expect from the government is different from what I expect from the government. So what I expect from in 2023 will be different what I expect in back in 2000s or what I expect in the upcoming years in 2030. So from time to time, again, the people's demand changes. What I expect from government changes, which means the scope of activity is also moving always ahead. So as an activity, public administration changes. So historically, I have given you some ideas about this. I told you when it comes to the class, I told you certain concept that see if you look at all those government formats. See initially remember initially our form of government was absolute monarchies. Wherever you go across the globe, it was absolute monarchy. Later on, there was a struggle for constitutions. So there was always a struggle for constitution. People wanted more freedom. People wanted more, again, liberty. they have to have certain fundamental rights. So they started protesting. So that was the age of people trying for constitutions. Then later comes the constitution came, and there is a rule by the people. People selected the government. And every year before elections or every now and then, the people demand changes. Take an example. See, we had a policy of the laissez-faire. So, you take an example of the early world, where we can connect to the world history part. See, when it comes to the First World War, when it comes to the First World War, again during those kind of time, there was a belief that again government is basically going to do everything. Government is going to do everything. Almost all the activity. There were private people, yes, true. Back in Britain, they again opened up the private investment, or the private investment was large during the Industrial Revolution time, way back, way back. So at that point of time, the role of the state is to basically control them, control them. Slow and steady, we progress with the same idea. There's a coexistence of private, but in a very minimal state. State continues to dominate. State continues to dominate. See, the nature of the government itself changed after the First World War. The particular government started adopting the laissez-faire policies. After the World War, people adopted the welfare policies. Then later on, they understood in the 1930s that this welfare policies has doomed, created huge problems. We have to have the laissez-faire policies. Again, the end of the World War, Second World War. Remember, Second World War, so many. So whenever there's a crisis situation, take an example, not just from the past, from the near present also, near past also. Take an example of the COVID-19 pandemic. See what happened. The government started enacting. See how the scope of a bad changes as an activity. Its powers reaches beyond a lot of areas. Extremely powerful. The government has become extremely powerful during the COVID-19 crisis. They asked us to lock down. They asked us to stay at homes. See, depending upon the situation, depending upon whatever happening in this world, during a crisis, people wanted government to have a new rule, a new stake. So the laissez-faire, the World War II, the LPG era, things have been changing. The role of the state or the role of a bad scope of public administration as an activity changes beyond. So this is the basic question. As a discipline, whether it change? Yes. As an activity, whether it change? Yes. So Waldo says that, see, despite all these changes, PABAD has a stable core. He talks about public administration as a discipline. Even you can talk about public administration as an activity. It has a vacillating periphery. As discipline, it has a vacillating periphery. Today, it is not unique disciplinary. It is multidisciplinary. Every discipline is multidisciplinary. Unique discipline is dead, no longer there. The stable core. What do you mean the stable core? Again, the stable core, there are certain things. The stable core, the study of the tools and techniques. It is a stable core. What are the methods in which public administration? Vacillating periphery. What are situations in which we use the tools and techniques? It changes accordingly. That's a vacillating idea. So the boundary of the scope of PABAD has become invisible. Invisible. And Waldo says, especially the sentence when it comes to not the scope, he says that during the identity crisis, public administration has lost its identity because it has no one identity. It is reeling under the crisis of identity. It has a stable core, it has a vacillating periphery. That means that it has no core idea or identity. It kept on changing. So public administration as an idea. So I told you, whenever there is a question about scope, Waldo should be or can be mentioned. So there was a question in the past 5 years, is the scope over expanding? Is the scope over expanding? See, we have to check whether the scope is over expanding or not. Because what the government should do or what the administration should do, should not do, all depending upon the philosophy or the ideology of the state. Whether we are taking the laissez-faire, which means we are giving private more interference, we are taking a big back step. Whether it is a welfare state, the government is doing a lot of things, depending upon the political leaders in power. So if there is a communist government in power, generally they go for a welfare state activity. Because according to their philosophy, they believe that it is the duty of the state to provide everything. It has been diluting up, or depending upon again depending upon the understandability. Slowly, it has been proliferating, but they always believe that there is a welfare concept. So, depending upon the ideology of the state, whether the scope is over expanding, we cannot say in a one go. It depends upon the philosophy. Depends upon the philosophy of the state. Depends on the nature of the policies adopted by the government. Yes. So if the state embraces the policy of nationalization, it can lead to increase in the scope of activity. If a state goes in a privatization, we know that if we in PSUs we adopt a strategic disinvestment policy. So what is the nature? We are privatizing. What is the scope of government activity? What's the scope of public administration? Again, it is reducing. It is not expanding. Intellectual horizons of the discipline of public administration. Yes, whether public administration has basically goes into different disciplines. We have traditionally evaded all the social science, political science, sociology, psychology, economics. So today, it is a multidisciplinary nature. So if more and more areas are coming under public administration, means the scope is expanding. We go to the philosophy, we go into ethics. It is today a multidisciplinary nature. So all over the world, we can see that we have the idea that whether the scope is expanding, if it depends upon the philosophy, it depends upon the nature, it depends upon the how the discipline has also emerged. So is the scope over expanding? Depends upon the questions. So again, there was a question, straightforward, direct on the scope of this. So meaning, scope, nature of public administration. So you guys following me? All right. So what I'm going to talk about and next is about the public and private, and I'm not going in depth about what is the difference between public and private, which is a very easier topic. If there's a question, that's a lottery. So if there is questions from areas like public private differences, again evolution of public administration, we'll talk about that. So phenomenological approach, yes, I'll talk towards. So I have to talk about the phenomenological approach. There are ideas of epistemological approach. So we'll talk again together with thinkers, because we have to talk when it comes to all those approach. We'll talk about, sure. So is the scope again over expanding? We have done that. So what about what are I talking about? Yes, if there's a question from public-private evolution, hit it. It is a very easier question and you will get a good marks. But again, what is the idea? I have to mention the name of the thinkers. So when it comes to public-private, just you guys know about the differences and similarities, but remember, I'm just going to talk about who are the thinkers, where you can place the thinker as. Differences, when it comes to differences, you have to talk about people who have talked about the differences. Herbert Simon is a man who talks about the differences between public and private. Negro talks about differences. Paul Appleby talks about differences. So whenever you write about the difference of public-private, again, not just again a random throwing of the difference between public and private, you will get an average mark. To get a precise, a good marks, application of thinkers, name of thinker should be there. Who is the one who talks about the similarities? One man you can always remember is Philo. His famous quote is administration is administration, whether it's public or private. Whether it's public or private. So public private administration differences you definitely guys know about that. It's a readable one, but I want you to know about the name. That's it. Also, again, when it comes to evolution, the questions have been asked in two ways. Again, directly it was asked from Nicholas Henry's evolution. There are a couple of times Nicholas Henry's evolution have been asked. What a straightforward, simple question. There have been areas where evolution and NPA was linked. Till the 1970s was asked. You don't need to explain post NPA phase. Bad as NPA, public administration or new public administration. New phase. You can explain till then. There have been cases in the past which talks about the ideas of the locus and focus, Columbusky's ideas, and how we can link to the discipline. So if there is a question from discipline, please go for it. Compulsory, yes, you need to go for it. You need to go for it. So when it comes to the choosing of options, if since you have written so many examination, you know that how are you going to choose this particular option? When it comes to paper one, again, if you know about all the three questions, yes, the first step when before choosing an option is whether we go for seeing that whether I know about these three particular questions, the name of the name of the thinkers which I can apply. Again, it depends upon it's upon a weighing balance whether you know what kind of question you know more and whether you know the name of the thinkers. When it comes to the paper two, it's all about the weighing, whether I can write certain examples. So, if it is a question, public-private evolution, please go for it. So, these are the idea. I'm going to jump into Wilson because, again, Wilson can be is section A divided till administrative law. See, it is not just like that. Again, people they may ask questions. Again, I'll give you an idea about Nirmala asked a question about whether the section A questions, what kind of questions can be coming in the section A. So I can give you an idea. So I have listed it out. I will basically talk about that now. Then I'll move to the Wilson. See, wait a minute. Yeah, see, the kind of question they were asking in the section A, I'm going to talk about the section A. Introduction, thought, behavior, organizations, accountability, control, and administrative. So these are the topic that they ask. Again, introduction, thought, behavior, again, organizations, accountability, control, and administrative. Yeah, so till the administrative law, you can say that. Again, there are questions asked from the part. So accordingly, can give more importance to some units at a good start. I made an idea. I made an idea about what all questions are coming in what all areas. But you cannot from that my perspective. I don't think that focusing on certain particular areas is not going to give a big way ahead strategy, or a pinpoint or an advantage for it. For example, if I talk through the question papers of this year, first question was introduction. Second question was thought. Again, third question, part A, I'm talking about the section, first question. Third question was administrative law, 1C. Fourth question was introduction again. The fifth question was accountability control. Again, the first question, 2 was all about administrative law, 3 was about behavior, thought. So the ordering of the question, only I found the only similarities across these years can be found out from the first, second questions. First and second question has always been introduction and administrative thought. Then the third question, 1C changes from behavior and administrative law. 1 year it can be behavior, another it can be administrative law. In every sense, it can be behavior this year. And 1D question, it can change accordingly. Like there are introduction or there are accountability control organization. There is no one way of pointing. Also, the last question, the completely last question, we have no coherence way. So focusing on one particular idea, one particular topic, I don't think you may miss out any compulsory questions. There is a high chance that you may miss out the compulsory questions because they're asking from all the 5 topics about this part. All right, so that's not the way. I don't prefer that. I don't ask you to go for such a strategy. Okay, let us come to Wilson. We don't want to waste time. See, when it comes to a thinker, what we have to think about, again, already there is a strategy for thinkers, talk about his contribution, its criticism, and its relevance. So, when it comes to Wilson, the first idea that comes into our mind is political constitution dichotomy. So, whenever there is a question, when you write about Wilson, as an introduction, you can write about the name of his essay. Study of administration should be mentioned. So in an introduction, you can write about Wilson and his essay. There is it can be a standard definition, standard introduction where you can write about Wilson, his essay, and you can even say that he has contributed tremendously to public administration. So a mix of all these words you can bring in with a standard definition to Wilson. Then if it is a question specifically about dichotomy, if it is a question specifically about any, but so there are 2 type of questions they asked for Wilson. One type of question is the quotation based questions. So like asked a couple of years back about administrative questions are not political questions. Again, a field of administration is the field of business. Again, they can ask number of quotes. There are a number of quotes mentioned by Wilson about it is easier to frame a constitution, difficult to run a constitution. Again, he talks about a person sharpening the knife. Again, all those kind of, we'll talk about all those quotes. There are a couple of quotes where the possible question for Wilson can come. And also the second type of question that was asked from Wilson, the only question that asked from Wilson was, see, the relevance of Wilson. And even there is a question from saying that, see, when we consider Wilson as a father of public administration, is it kind of injustice to the early people that contributed? So who are the people who we always start with prepared with Woodrow Wilson. Who are the person who contributed to public administration before Wilson concept? So these are the 2 type of questions. One quotation based question, whatever he has thrown out in essay in one part, in another part, basically the contribution, basically those kind of idea, the relevance or even the people before Wilson's. So I'm giving you, throwing out like the contribution, the development of administrative study, nature of administration, science of administration, what all Wilson's essay talks about. That is what I'm talking. It is an essay that gives out certain ideas. No, not a very clear idea. What are we derived from Wilson's ideas? Development administration. He talks about the necessity of development of an administrative study. He talks about what should be the nature of public administration. He talks about the science of administration. He talks about the values and objective of the administrative study. He talks about public administration, whether we should hear about the public opinions, whether the public opinion is important. Again, where he talks about whether politics and administration dichotomy is the most important concept, even considered to be one of the forefathers of the comparative public administration. Even talks about business administration and comparison with the public administration, and also finally paragraphs he talks about administrative ethics in his study of administration. So Wilsonian question, go for the introduction, his name, his essay, is in a general sense, he has contributed a lot. Depending upon the question, throughout your content about Wilson. So let me take you roughly and quickly going through the development of administrative study. See, what Wilson talks about that, Wilson always says that, see, when we study, the focus was entirely on state. All the time, people talks about state and state and state. The political science people constantly talk about study of state. Nobody has concentrated on administration. Due to Wilson's background, the spoil systems, he understood that there is a huge need for to study about administration. So Wilson said that it is all about political science. I agree, but we need to develop the administrative part also. Something that we need to develop is the administrative part. The public administration is the action part of state, and we have to study the public administration. He said that public administration evolved from political science. That is true. Over a long time, there was a struggle for emergence of public administration, also true. But today, this is a situation, the spoil system, according to his idea, say the state no longer can be managed through all those kind of ad hoc arrangement. No, the state should have scientifically, again, systematically, there should be a set of administration. So, in order to deal with the state, the affairs, political science as a discipline cannot take it forward. We need to move out the administration from political science. It should have a individual focused development. So that is the reason why he talked about that there should be a development of administrative study. So there should be a science of administration. He should say that there should be specialized body of knowledge. Separate system should be created. So Wilson always says that we need a separate system of body because political science is no longer able to control these things. So he definitely asked public administration should be a different thing. He defined public administration in a very broad sense, the detailed, systematic application of public law. So public administration, he says that it is a government in action. It is executive. It is the most visible part. It is a practical business end of the government. So what I'm dictating the keywords. Executive, most visible part, practical end of the government, systematic detailed application of law. So this is implementation. So this is the nature of public. So he asked throughout his essay, he asked us again, please remove it away from political science. It should be the science of administration. What should be the nature about it? Yes, government action side, executive, visible. It is a practical business end of the government. Whether it is a science, he said it should be developed as a science. It should be developed as science because he always believed this was an era in America. It was an era of the positivist movement. People believe that whatever make it science, it is true. Prove it, it is true. He wanted administration to be a practical science. He always referred it to as practical science. He had understood science is the cure for corruption. It's a cure for all the spoil systems problems. So in the era of America, where science was considered the magical wand of solving the problems, Wilson also considered again public administration as a science. He wanted to create it as a science. So he believed that PABAD is a science. So he wanted to develop it as a different entity. Yes, he did. He did not did. He asked us to do that because all Wilson did was write an essay, nothing else. Just he wrote an essay. People have interpreted in different ways about Wilson's ideas. So he told us again there should be a development of administrative study. What is the nature about it? It should be a science. And what are the values? He definitely said, see, what is the central purpose of administration study? To develop a set of principles. Please do develop a set of principles. This is a science. This should be studied separate. These are the things. These should be studied. All I know is the purpose of studying administration is to develop a set of valid principles. For executive to implement in a good way, in an efficient, effective way, there should be a science. So what is his objective? He studied that what is the objective? Effectiveness, efficiency, economy should be there. specialized areas. Wilson talks about the administration should be specialized. The administrators are different. They should be specialized. So accordingly, Woodrow Wilson said that economy, efficiency, the effectiveness. See, remember all these things when we study about, when you already study about Taylor's scientific management. You see, Taylor literally mentioned if these three E's: efficiency, economy, and effectiveness. See, in declaring such an objective, literally we even call Wilson has moved towards even scientific management, which was basically later started or again popularized by W. Taylor. But the idea of defining the objectives of maximizing effectiveness, efficiency, and economy means even Wilson moved towards the scientific management. So Wilson, according to his situation, has said that see these are the objectives, these are the things. So he also even talks about in essay whether public opinion should be heard of. So whether public opinion should be heard of, he said, yeah, but to an extent only. To an extent only. He said that they should be sensitive to public opinion. Public administrators should be sensitive to public opinion. Again, it should provide service to people for their needs. But he was well aware that if you're going to listen to every single thing the public is going to say, it is going to create problems. So he also considered the public opinion as a constraint. Also considered the public opinion as a stimuli. You can say that. So Wilson accepted the fact that citizen could legitimately act as a critique, yes, but he also believed that people should not be allowed to meddle with the administration because they are the people incompetent. Administrators have some kind of competence. That is the reason why they are categorized as administrators. People are incompetent. So every single thing or every people of public should not be allowed to meddle. No, you can hear them. You can take whatever you want. That is his idea. See, remember, it's very significant when it comes to the modern day concept also. Whether we are hearing the public opinion, yes. Whether we are adopting the entirely what about public opinion, no. We know what to do. We know what to do. So whether there's a participatory system, yes. Whether everything depends upon what the citizen says, no. We'll also look at the economy. We look at the effectiveness. We look at how we can do with the minimal resources. Yes. So that this is where we reach in a stage where people can give us opinions, right? See today, when it comes to policy evaluation, policy formulation, people gives us opinions, like the popular opinions. Policies are given out to the public. You can write opinions. True, they are an authoritative critique, but whether they should be allowed to meddle in, no, it is not their role. They are incompetent. He justified limiting the popular interferences. No, they can talk, but they cannot interfere. So relevant topic, public opinion. What about a comparative study? Before studying Riggs, we always told that this guy, Wilson, has compared everything. He even adopted his concepts. When it comes to the criticism, we even criticize him saying that all his ideas were not his unique ideas. No, his ideas were obtained from all the French, all the Prussian administration. Back then, the German administration. So he always viewed the administrative systems in Europe was much more developed than in America. Much more. They were authoritarian, yes. They were authoritarian, but also we can take out their ideas. So he was well aware that America lives in a democratic system. But we can also focus on our own ideas. So he always say that good elements from the other countries can be taken. So he believed that American administration can be improved and reformed by comparing with the European administration. It is all about establishing similarities and dissimilarities in order to establish weaknesses and strength. Comparison. You can study about it. Whenever it comes to comparative systems, whenever there is a comparative elements, you can even write about Woodrow Wilson. Whenever it comes to paper two, again, comparative systems. So you can include Woodrow Wilson's theme, similar to the Riggs concepts. You can also say that Wilson back in 1887 also proposing the comparative idea. So if there's a question of one of the quote of Wilson, you can see if there's a question about this particular one. If I see a murderous fellow sharpening the knife cleverly, I can borrow the way of sharpening the knife without borrowing the probable intention to commit murder with it. It is a quote that Wilson made in his essay. Again, you can say that it's all about taking the comparison, but he recognized the fact that lessons can be learned, should be filtered out, would have been filtered out. So there should be filtering out process also happen. So the cultural, again, whatever he said that whenever a lesson was learned by a person, he or she filtered out through his culture links to technique. Sure. He know that. He know that. Again, these kind of comparisons. Two sides you can say that comparatives. Whenever you're taking some tools and technique from the foreign countries, again, you should take into consideration the good things, that the techniques, not the intention. So he also know that there can be the ideas about it. So if there's a quotation based questions, again, idea have to be implemented. Again, finally, he also talks about building the business administration. Yes, he wrote that he wanted to make government less unbusiness-like, which means the administration is business. Less unbusiness-like means administration is business. Business means, again, it best now basically not involved in politics. So in one way, you can say that public administrations is synonymous with the private administration. One way. But when it, basically he talks about when it comes to the comparison, he wanted that kind of operational efficiency. What about the private, the central idea of same economic efficiency and the effectiveness. Effectiveness. So he has an idea. He believed that. See, again, he wanted to move the administration away from politics. So that is one again reason he said that administration is like a business. He wanted to make administration result oriented, output efficient, professionally committed. Oh, that is the reason why Wilson said that. See, this is like a business. The work culture should be like business. There should be professionalism. So it should have an idea. Again, there's a quote. He said that again, the field of administration is the field of business. See, why? There are two reasons. I told you why. One, the central concerns are same. Two, we should move away from politics. Because of the spoil system, he was so much so that he wanted to move the administration away from the politics. So, business or public administration. Again, there's a quote. I will show you the quote towards the end. So there are two quotes we have already covered about this. I have to have the broad idea about it. What about the dichotomy concept? Yes, you all know the famous dichotomy concept. Again, he has a lot of quotations over here. He say that administration lies outside the proper sphere of politics, and administrative questions are not political questions. Although politics sets the task for administration, it should not be suffered to manipulate its offices. Again, the field of administration is the field of business. It should be removed from the hurries and strife of the politics. So he wanted to again move away from politics. Reason, yes, all the historical reason, because all the spoil systems, the reason why he formulated, he even asked for the development of administration is that, again, it should be moved. Political science is no longer capable. Also, he wanted to move away from it this part because he has seen the huge spoil system effect and impact of the spoil systems. He always believed that politics is different. It is a special area. The province is a statement. Administration is much technical, much technical. It should move out. So that there, he emphasized that administrative questions are not political questions. So bureaucracy again, Wilson later on again we all know that even though he mentioned that political administration dichotomy in a very strong sense, later he vacillated, right? He knew that it is very difficult to separate administration from politics. He even diluted the standard of political administration dichotomy later. It was very difficult to separate administration from politics. No, it is not possible. The one biggest criticisms he has faced throughout his entire life was the dichotomy. He says that again, politics and administrations are different, but he find it very difficult to keep his space. He wanted to purify administration. That's the reason why he wanted to move the politics away from it. He argued for creation of a technically competent, a politically neutral administrative system. America is a democracy. At that point, it was a democracy also. Today, also, it's a democracy. He wanted to create a technically competent, politically neutral administrative system. He wanted to create administration more like business because he wanted to move it away from the politics. Evil practices of the political spoil system. He wanted to develop in a scientific line. Again, it was the idea. If Wilson proposed the idea of being business-like, being science-like, all because he wanted it to move away from politics. He wanted to keep out of partisan politics. He wanted to have an efficient administrative system. So his concept of political administration dichotomy was relevant at that point of time. True. Whatever he has seen, he wrote it. Later on, before winding up the essay, he understood it is difficult. That is the reason why he has vacillated across. The political administration dichotomy concept is the one biggest concept of Woodrow Wilson. The one big thing that you have to keep in mind when it comes to idea. So if you're writing a second paragraph or a context for a Woodrow Wilson 50 marker question or 20 marker question, whenever you write a contribution, first you write in a general way. Second, you can say that Woodrow Wilson's concept of dichotomy was a most major contribution. If whenever there's a question when it comes to the relevance, the current relevance of Woodrow Wilson, please do not write political administration dichotomy as first, because it's no longer applicable. It was his contribution, whether it's currently relevant. Again, you can say that about non-partisan one, true, but prioritize here, not important. You can say non-partisan, neutral, against civil servants. Again, today it's a need about neutral civil servants. We'll talk the application. So then I will show you. But remember, again, context setting paragraphs. The second paragraph you can write definitely about the dichotomy as one of the major contributions. What about the last one? Before the criticism, we just talk about the ethical aspects also. So he don't define it in a big manner. Only paragraph is written over here. It's given here from the essay. Whatever he wrote was, how shall our governments be so administered that it shall always be the interest of the public officer to serve, not to superiors alone, but to community also, with a great best effort to serve its own talent. So Woodrow Wilson basically wanted to have an idea that the public administrators should include some kind of ethical obligation beyond all those kind of technical competencies, non-partisan neutrality, but there should be also some kind of ethical obligations. So in his view, we always believe that a professional characteristics of civil servants always depending upon their ability to balance the public life and its opinions. So there should be an ethical obligation. there should be always, we always say that whenever a person is given power, there should be equal accountability also. So a power should be always accompanied by a stricter accountability. See, you can say about Wilson's ideas. So ethically, beyond whatever his concept, the technical competence, non-partisan neutrality, there should be some kind of broad range of ethical obligation for the administrators. So that was all his ideas. Just remember a line about it. Again, there can be questions based on the quotations where you write specific ideas about it also. All right. So let's quickly go through the criticisms. Again, remember the one biggest criticism he faced always is dichotomy. Dichotomy could not withstand scrutiny, and I've given here a lot of people's ideas. So whenever you're writing criticisms, again, try to write the name of the thinker, which can fetch you mark. General, if there is no idea, there's no other way. We just write about his name itself. That's it. But remember, there are questions like again, Paul Appleby, people like Fredericks, people like Fessler, people like Waldo, who all tells that this is not a narrow view, this is not a traditional view, it is a broad, it is not again modern view. People who say that the public administration or the political administration dichotomy is not going to work. Post World War II, a lot, even in 1930s itself, even in the era, a lot of people have criticized. They have said that political administration dichotomy is not possible. The fusion is the only one because it is very difficult. Policy making cannot be separated from policy implementation, which means politicians and public administrators should be linked together. You cannot clearly demarcate it. Even we can also believe that even though he's considered to be the father of public administration, the idea of political administration dichotomy is not relevant. Whatever his idea of non-partisan, whatever his idea about, see, part of the dichotomy is relevant. Non-partisan, neutral, these are all relevant. But there is a stricter dichotomy as proposed by Wilson is not relevant. So there are people who talks about in the modern view, tradition again, and the broad view, people who talks about Pabad is all about the not just one side, it's also two sides. See, can be considered as a criticism. Negro says specifically about, I don't want to quote all these things, but just remember the names and people saying that stricter dichotomy was not possible. Even Wilson knows that because as we all know, during his essay, he started again going back, which he started again, whatever decisions, whatever things he mentioned, he went back again. Okay, so remember the one particular criticism he should face is political administration dichotomy. And dichotomy was not unrealistic. Again, basically, the problem of dichotomy, it is not just the dichotomy was possible or not. The idea of this dichotomy has injured public administration. That is a big problem. See, dichotomy as a concept, he proposed a concept, it was absolutely wrong. But the idea of dichotomy has injured public administration because, what happened? People went after this dichotomy. Later on, we felt that it is very difficult. Only later on they understood that this dichotomy concept started creating problems. Yes, don't worry. I'll share the slides. Slides is sharing. Don't worry. So whatever slides I am taking the class, I will share. Don't worry. So again, the idea of the politics, again, the separation between politics and administration has created certain problem because it has again injured the further study of public administration. So basically, he ignores all the political systems. He consider everything as separate, which is not right. See, even though he proposed all these things, he himself have vacillated. That is a specialty. Even toward the end of the essay, whatever he has wrote down, it was like a fusion idea. He says that science of administration without clearly delineating the subject matter or the focus of the discipline. He asked us to build a theory. He asked us to build principles. Yes. He asked us to move away from politics. Yes. He said that these are the objectives. It should be like a business. But he did not say what the principles should consist of. What are the principles? Work should be the field of study. No, nothing. He just asked, please find out certain principles which are universally valid, very general stuff. He asked to build a theory, but he did not say what is funding. That is the reason why we criticize his essay. And he introduced a good approach of business management. I agree. Introduced the business management approach to public administration instead of the political approach. Good. But you know what happened? And when you introduce the business management, which means the way of how the administration should be run, he did not focus on the goals. What is the problem with the private administration or the business administration? They may take the means. The methods, they will focus a lot on methods. Will the end means, with the goal met, they will not basically come. There was tremendous focus on means, how things should be run. Not exactly the goal part. So there are different ways we can write about criticisms. I am giving you number of criticisms. Again, they fail to provide some substance. There's a lack of focus on the implementation side when it comes to he talks about Wilson. But what is the solution? What is the solution? One thing that you need to write, a word that you can write in Wilson is he was descriptive. He never prescribed the exact medicine or the solution for the problems of public administration. He described the problems. And you know what he prescribed? He prescribed one thing, that is the dichotomy. That does not work. Whatever he prescribed did not work. Again, during you guys know that Woodrow Wilson was the American president. So during his presidency, you know what happened? Whatever decisions, whatever things he made, he mailed out. He even made partisan appointments. He even supported partisan things. So even though he wrote a lot, lectures a lot in the essay, whatever he done in the practical sense, wrong. Because he understood it's not possible. That's the reason. That's the reason. So even he basically said that the administrators depend upon highly political and a partisan chief executive. Basically, he wanted basically to create a scenario that there are people who basically highly political. His approach in White House was not what he written down in his essay in 1887. No. When he became a politician, initially as a governor, later as a president of the United States, whatever he had mentioned was not right. Whatever he mentioned, he did not follow. So a man who do not practice whatever he preaches, how can you trust them? So there is criticisms of Woodrow Wilson. So even there is a one way. These are all the kind of criticism points out is dichotomy concept. One way I can also criticize Woodrow Wilson, saying that his ideas was not original. The ideas was not original. See, it was one of the important pieces, study of the administration. But there are good elements saying that he was not a person who talks about all these parts. Paul von Ripper, he wrote the American Administrative State, a book called American Administrative State. He particularly says that it was not Wilson's essay, but prior to that, almost in 1877, 1880s, prior to 7 years or 10 years before Wilson's essay, there was a work by Dorman Easton. And that should be considered as the most important. The study on civil services during a president called Rutherford Hayes. He was a president, earlier president during the 1877 in the United States. At that particular point of time, there were studies about all the problems. So Wilson was not a person who talks about civil services, administrators. No, wrong. You cannot claim that. And even his his essay had a little impact. When people came to know about his essay, again, it was considered as a beginning or a starting point. True, I agree. But 1930s, even in 1930s, there have been no number of citations. No, Frank Goodenough was a person who also supported Wilson's ideas of dichotomy. Later, everyone debunked them. Again, he can say that Daniel Martin, The Failing Legacy of Woodrow Wilson, a book who wrote by Daniel Martin, say that, see, his idea of dichotomy was not his idea. It was employed in Europe back then. Even the post-thinkers like White, Marshall Demock did not identify Wilson as the founder of public administration, as a study of the administration, not public administration, as a study of administration, because there were a lot of people before that. Even Wilson's essay has not that kind of impact. True that it was a beginning point. Yes. What else? If you do a reality check, you can understand it is not. And this was the criticisms by Wilson. And whenever we criticize people, we also say it's about something good, because at the end of the day, we are all positive-minded people. We have to say something significant, right? Yes. Yeah. So again, what is the importance, even after all these criticisms, what is the importance of this essay? See, ideas, the essay was practically the first literature which says about scientific and systematic study of administration. Not about dichotomy first, I told you, dichotomy is not his first significance. Application of dichotomy can be seen, but his first significance should always be the need for study of scientific and systematic. There's a need to systematically and scientifically study the administration. True, agreed. Louis Brownlow, who wrote about a book called Public Administration, and Woodrow Wilson, he says that we should consider him as a pioneer and a founder of the study of science and the art of the public administration. The PABAD as a discipline started, as a starting point started, moved away from Wilson's essay. There should be considered, see, remember, any person writing about at that particular time, depending upon the nature, the political, the intellectual premise of that era. So at the end of the 19th century, what was Wilson's situation? That reflects in his essay also. All the political, larger social, political, economic, intellectual ideas reflected it. Wilson's thinking, writing, actions all reflect with the random, the changing ones. The changing economic, social, political, administrative systems. It says that. He's considered the benchmark. Yes. We always believe that he's a father of the public administration. It was his essay. That was a starting point. That was a starting point of all these things. So when it comes to the significance, you can write again. He is more known for the need for the study. Comparative elements, you can say. Administrative ethics, you can say. Efficiency. Do we see, even though we again we withdraw from the fact that efficiency, effectiveness should not be only the fact, we also say that, hey, efficiency is one of the fact even now. Specialization, important. He wanted a merit-based civil servants. Important or no? Yes. He don't want a partisan civil servant. It is important. He even talks about, see, all the kind of the decentralization. He wanted power should not be looked upon in one hand. Whoever is there, there should be distribution of power. It should not be in the hand of the few people. No. Whoever is trained, equipped, and specialized can take up the job. So decentralization also, administrative ethics can also be the part. So this is where I would like to contribute. The static portions are whatever you have learned from your notes, your ideas, textbooks. That's the only thing that I've told you about Wilson over here. But what is the application of Wilson when it comes to a current relevance, when it comes to paper two, where you can use Woodrow Wilson? So this is where I am contributing. See, uh, the application of Wilson. Yeah, all right. So application of Wilson basically says about let me talk about the dichotomy one. So dichotomy one, in a very broad manner, we can say that, see, where can we apply this dichotomy? I told you dichotomy is mostly relevant, but when it comes to the central bank independence, for example, see, prior to the MPC, the Monetary Policy Committee, you know that the monetary policy was the sole, again, objectives done by the RBI, the Reserve Bank in India, or be it the part. So when it comes to RBA, when you study the financial administration management concepts, you probably have heard about there's always a conflict between the autonomy and the accountability of RBA also. So whether we need to, whether the public administration, the central bank needs independence, uh, whenever there's a question it comes to RBA's autonomy, when it comes to central bank independence, whether that politicians should be the part of the deciding monetary policy committee, or the major part of it. Politician means I told you whether the government should be the part of it. That is the reason why I'm talking about. So it was the sole idea of the RBI, whether the government should take part in it, the state should be a part of about it. That's a big question. So again, MPC basically we know that RBI autonomy questions. You can say that uh, the the government part, the RBI is an autonomous institutions. Accordingly, it has created its own systems under the RBI Act. It has its own legislations and all. Whether the government should interfere in the RBI, central bank independence. So that is something where that you can talk about the, again, a minimal way. Wilson, say Woodrow Wilson talks about there should be dichotomy, there should be efficient way. Only the people technically competent, state should not interfere in the part. If the state, if the particular ministry comes into the part, which means the idea of that particular ministry will be the priority. So in MPC, the government will appoint two officials. See, they are the administrators, I agree, but they are the part of the state. So they represent the political masters. So there is a mix of politics comes up. So in a wild way, you can write the political administration dichotomy when it comes to central bank independence, RBI autonomy kind of questions. Efficiency and specialization. Again, Wilson focused on efficiency and specialization. I told you he wanted specific people in specific areas. Well, in terms of administrator, I'm talking about. See, we can implement or we can write in case of healthcare administration when there is any questions when it comes to health associated concept. We can write about Wilson and his concept of efficiency and specialization needed. You know how we know that hospitals have all kind of departments like what kind of department, radiology, surgery, cardiology, all are managed by professionals. See, this specialization means more patient care. Similar to what Wilson's belief in a trained, competent people. Efficient, trained, competent people in administration can be aligned with the healthcare, the specialization of one. Merit-based civil service. When it comes to recruitment, questions in paper one, personal administration, paper two, civil services, or recruitment, you can add again Woodrow Wilson. His ideas would merit-based. Okay. Again, a decentralization. He always wanted. I told you, he always wanted the kind of again powers which can be. Because the essay outlined the idea that again things should be decentralized. So, for example, in Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, we empower the local government and communities to make sure that sanitation campaigns work properly. There is no one top layer initiative. No, So when it comes to decentralization questions, when it comes to such policy questions, also you can add Wilson. Because this concept of decentralization, what I mean by decentralization, and he don't want the power to be or functions to be concentrated in one part. No, whoever is technically competent, whoever is trained in that particular area should deal with that particular area. Decentralized should not have a particular ethics and accountability. Yes, he talks about ethics and accountability. So we can say that again, he wanted the kind of ethical ideas that the civil servants had put forward. See, we can say that even the modern whistleblower protection laws. So, individual who exposes the corruptions or unethical practices within the government should be shielded from the retaliations, right? So, ethically behaving. So, somebody who is behaving in an ethical manner should be protected. So, this approach that promotes ethical behavior and accountability echoes Wilson's vision of ideas of ethics, administrative ethics. So again, in the questions when it comes to Whistleblowers Protection Act, again, you can say that, yes, something that mentioned way back by Woodrow Wilson about promoting ethics, which again helps or prevents or shield the people who is whistleblower. Yes, you can say that. So his ideas, how can you use his ideas in other paper two areas? So as I told you earlier, you cannot throw general examples in Wilson. You can link those examples again example with the Wilson's concepts. So this is the idea. So are you guys following? So this is something that I adding the value to the part. All right. Again, two more things. Just some idea. For example, Wilson in his essay has told also about whatever laws, whatever things we propose should be very clear, crisp, and concise. So whatever laws, whatever things that should be again formulated should be very clear, crisp, and concise. So these are the words that Wilson used in the essay. See, for any laws, any bills, any defining things, you can say that the laws should be clear, crisp, and concise. Only when laws are clear, crisp, and concise, the law implementation will work out properly. The policy, the law, effective implementation of laws will be only possible when laws are clear, crisp, and concise. It is Wilsonian idea, where you can apply any idea, any laws, any act or any bills that is coming up. See the data protection bills. You can say that it should not be vague. It should be crystal clear, crisp, and concise. Wilsonian idea. Wilson's idea. So such kind of ideas can be implemented by the part. Again, self-regulation. Again, Woodrow Wilson says that the public servants, the administrators should remain impartial and neutral. For that, they should self-regulate. Self-regulate. They should control themselves. He emphasized the importance of self-regulation to make sure that you are impartial and neutral. Self-regulation, you can use in terms of self-regulation. Again, when it comes to accountability, ensuring accountability, transparency, making sure the office goes according to a minimum code of conduct and following an ethical code, you can see it is important that servants, public servants should be should understand the importance of self-regulation. So these are the applications of Wilson that you can see. So this is what we are trying to throw forward about it. Again, this is all about Wilson. I just want, before concluding, these are the three kind of questions they asked. The field of Woodrow public administration is a field of business. Already we know what kind of approach that you need to give about it. Again, this is another question they asked. the calling Woodrow Wilson the father of public administration is doing injustice to equally and even more eminent contribution made prior to him, before him. So who contributed to administration before Woodrow Wilson? You have dealt with Kautilya. See, Kautilya has talked about administration. He did not give about study of administration, but he had given a bit about administration, the importance of the public servants or civil servants. Even Confucius, even Plato, all talks about administration. So not just all the ancient times. No, I'll show you even the modern times. Again, we can have the examples. So I just described it in such a way that that's it. See, even in the ancient times, the Confucius, Arthashastra from Kautilya, Plato, Aristotle, all talks about administration. Confucius talks about principles and methods and recruitment in back in 500 BCs. Kautilya talks about a lot of stuff. Plato, Aristotle talks about style of administration in the Greek cities. Machiavelli, again, 16th and 18th century, you can talk about Machiavelli, Montesquieu, historical one. He learned from Prussian and the Austria. I told you about it. Again, Machiavelli in his Prince talks about the characters and conducts of the public servants. Yes, Montesquieu talks about how state should be. Again, administrative functions can be guided by the state. Administration he talks about. Prussia and Austria, there was plan to train civil servants. See, Wilson's idea to train civil servants. Was it unique? No, it was there prior Wilson. So, was a contribution before Wilson? Yes. Again, even we can say that all these are from different part of the world. So let us neglect. But take an example of Alexander Hamilton. He was the first Secretary of Treasury to a president called George Washington. He was a man behind the economic policies. He was a person who said that we need a strong set of executives. Executives, not just politicians, but the people, administrators. Wilson echoed the same thing. We need strong administrators. Yes. So 16th and 18th century, Woodrow Wilson. But prior to the Woodrow Wilson, there are people who talks about. Again, let us leave. Consider it as very old. Let's talk about the 19th and 20th century, where Wilson has contributed. See, even before Wilson, you can say that on the 19th century, again, Charles Jean Baptiste Bonnet is a French person who wrote about public administration. This is basically considered to be the first treatise on public administration, not Wilson's essay. It is not Wilson's essay. We will consider again Baptiste Bonnet's concept is the first essay. Why we have no idea about it? Because it was written in French. Remember, if you know about Henry Fayol, Fayol's concept was made in French. Later on, it got translated and a lot of meaning got thrown out. Take an example of from US itself. Thomas Jefferson's papers. Thomas Jefferson papers basically back in when time the Constitution framing. 1780s was the time when America has framed its Constitution. That time, Thomas Jefferson has said, best government is the least government, which means minimal interference. Again, minimal people, but efficient people. Efficient people. Lawrence von Stein. Again, he back in days mentioned public administration of science. Science of administration. So Caspar Brishny again talks about separation. Again, from the Euro, from the Prussians. He was all a German person, German talking person. Basically, he influenced Wilson. But still then we consider Wilson as the father, because even before, prior to Wilson, from east to west, a lot of people have talked about public administration. But we can say that these all work are scattered. So even after all these things, again, if this particular question is about comment or discuss, you have to write the other side. All the side we say that Wilson, prior to Wilson, there are a lot of people. But you have to write also about Wilson, right? So why these works have never been considered as the proper one? Yes, these works are scattered throughout. They are scattered thoughts. They provide some direction, true. But none of the people we have just told just right now can basically take the discipline forward. Discipline. It was Wilson's essay that, remember, you need to write. It was Wilson's essay that created sustained interest and initiative among the people. So he or his essay bring a sustained interest and initiative among the people. That is the reason why we call him as the father of public administration. Despite having not any ideas that were not unique. Despite that, we call him as a father. Yes, this is the idea. And one, yeah, less government, more governance. Yeah, you can basically talk about that, but that's also good part. Jefferson idea in every part. Good. Again, വിൽസന്റെ ഒരു thought process കൂടെ നമുക്ക് പറയാനുണ്ട്. That is the science of administration, because we can say that it's very harder to run a constitution than framing it. And what I can say about this part, see, this court basically says that it is managing and implementing the government policies have become very difficult. It is getting very difficult. So it is not easy. Again, this quote is from the essay. We know that. This is basically he's talking about the increasing complexity of the governance and the administration. So there's an increasing complexity of the governance and the administration, and due to that, again, there's a problem of defining it. What is the increasing complexity? You guys know that there are socio-political economic changes happening from time to time, right? So I told you the concept of administration is not in 2006, not the same in 2003, not is going to be same in 2023. So it's going beyond and in a different thought. So the basic idea is it is not easy to run. So implementation or having a proper way, it's not an easier one to. So that's all about Wilson. So we have two ideas, that is the NPA, and I have little bit ideas about good governance. So let me go with the good governance part. So I hope you guys know about the NPA part. So what are questions that are asked from the NPA? Again, very straightforward, simple question from NPA that has the 3 goals and the again for the 5 goals and the anti goals. So direct the person that you can quote in NPA is Golombisky, Valdo, because Valdo was a man behind the NBC1, Minimum Conference 1. Golombisky was a person who coined 3 anti goals and 5 goals. So what were the ideas of anti goals? Again, anti-positivist, anti-technical, and anti-hierarchical. So they reject the value-free approach. Again, they reject the value neutrality against the theoretical pursuit. They don't want to make another theory. They reject all the formal, the control-oriented systems. And what are the 5 goals? Again, focus, directly ചോദിക്കാം. Again, it is a very easier question if it is directly asked. Relevance, values, social equity, change, client focused. So you have to know about that goals about it. I'm not going to explain a lot. No. So this is these are the goals about it. Again, significance and criticisms. Kindly go through the significance and the criticism. I can go in a quick manner about it. See, I want you to know about the back. If you want to learn something in the introduction, just know the background about it also. So NPA came around at what point? 1968. So what are the ideas in public administration? All the classical theories were thrown out of the bucket. Again, the human relations, the behavioral theory all came up during the World War period, 1930s period. Hawthorne experiments were all during the 1930s. And the human relations, later behavioral theory also concept came out in that particular time. But Nothing worked out. War happened. Again, later on, post-war, the idea got some traction, but not to a greater extent. System theory came up post-World War. CPA emerged in post-World War as a Cold War strategy. So much focus was on the development administration, CPA, or all those stuff. So nothing works out. That is the main problem. So in the decade of the 1950s and 60s, nothing works out. That is when radical people joined in Minobrock, decided that these is not how government should work, like administrators should do. So that is why they proposed the new public administration, that is the NPA, and given up the five goals and three anti-goals. What is significant? They reintroduced values, value free in they reintroduced values. They rejected the value free, so they reintroduced values, new thinking and refreshing outlook, strengthen the policy science, again, self-awareness, ecological orientation, activism, commitment. NPA provided all these aspects to the public administration community. Discipline had a greater relevance. Again, academical field, professional public administration, it brought closer about how theory and practice works in public administration. It became goal and aims oriented, influenced administrative reforms. It strengthened the client orientation. So there are a lot of elements in which you can say that, say about the importance about it, the NPA. But NPA has also been criticized by a lot of people, huge criticisms. Its status quo, again, a revolution or radicalism. The same Golumbisky, we criticized it. Again, when it comes to criticism, also, you can write Golumbisky's name because he was a man who said that, guys, these are radical people, these are revolution people, they are like status quo in skills and technologies. Words, only in words, there is radicalism, there is status quo in skills and technologies. Again, status quo, again, over ambitious, criticized for not giving anything. It did not work. What happened? Why it did not work? Remember, they asked us to move away from traditional public administration to new public administration. Whether this new public administration worked? No. Decade of 1960s was very 70s was very difficult for United States. Very difficult. Again, physical crisis, a lot of wars, unsettlements. Again, a huge problems. And it did not work. As we think NPA, it did not work. And there was always a call for, again, problems related to the bureaucracy. They are being very corrupt. They are being very status quo. They are being very again rigid about anything and everything. So that is when the public choice approach all came up. They started criticizing it. Bureaucracy, self-aggrandizement. They are taking all things for themselves, not for the people. So the bureaucracy or the administrators are very difficult. So the public choice approach says that we should adopt private. And the impact came to what we call as the NPM. So this is how the story goes about it from the NBC part. So the questions from the MBC or the NPA does not just lies in the first MBC. You need to know about again the differences between MBC1 and MBC2. I'll give you in the slides. Already I have taught in the class, but I'll again refresh that only points I've given in a tabular form. I will give you that. What about MBC third? And even I discuss about MBC fourth, the upcoming one. See, MBC third again much talks about CPA, leadership, much different aspects. I just want you to go through. Sorry, I just want to go through a couple of ideas about the MBC 4, MBC 3, because you need to know about the ideas of Minobrock conferences. That's it. So we'll wind up with that particular part. Yeah. So the Minobrock basically third happened in 2008, and its idea was the future of public administration, public management, and public service, where the major part placed was again it extended the frontier of comparative administration. So an integrative approach. Earlierly, according to Riggs, there were contribution, economic, political, social, different grounds we were organized the comparison, but today we try to organize an integral process. They started to recognize that the methodologies and technologies should be pluralistic. Pluralistic means according to situation, it should change. Multiple techniques should be developed to changing demands. Again, they also study about new definition of public administration. Again, it is a collective relationship, dialogues, and action to promote human flourishing for all. So they checked about the challenges of NPA given the globalization as such. So globalization has been good for them. It has been difficult for them sometimes. Sorry. So the MBC basically have put forward these ideas. And also it focused on these things. The academic practitioners relations, the democratic performance management, the financial management, the globalization, information technologies, low politics management systems, leaderships. So these are the kind of themes that they follow. So at least know the themes. If you can know the themes, you can write a 20-mark question out of NBCP. So generally, everybody will learn about NPA 1, but other areas you may tend to skip at. So MBC 3, again, do not skip. Again, just learn the key subject which you can expand. How you are going to expand? Take an example of the ideas of the leadership. For example, we can say that development of true good public administrators who can make a difference. You take an example of information technology, how IT can be used in public administration, etc. etc. So, what can be the potential NBC 4 things? Again, take a look at what is happening very much in public administration. We have the challenges of environment. Again, we can change about the climate change, the global warming. You can change the challenge of the emerging technologies, the AI, the blockchains, the drones. So whatever be it, the emerging technology, the challenge the public administration is faced. Again, the new in the new decade of the digital governance, how can public administration survive? The ethics that we can follow in the digital world, how you can ensure accountability, still the age-old problems. The leadership, again, public administration values. So these all kind of the potential questions. So that kind of in a very broad sense, there is it's a futuristic question on MBC4. Also, you can write what are the problems that we are going to face in future. What kind of the potential thing. All right. Yes. So these are the ideas. I just want again a couple of ideas also about again ideas about certain things. Again, I'll just finish off with again couple of current topics on good governance also, because I have a new good governance index indicator to show to you. That is that is the Chandler's Good Governance Index. This is basically a Singapore-based private institution that provides a good governance indicators. These points can be used in both GS2 as well as in a bad paper 1 when it comes to the good governance questions. So India's rank, we don't mind about the India's ranks or not. But what is the focus? We studied about good governance, right? Because we know that how good governance can be defined, and or what are the characteristics of good governance. So if you can see that these are the characters that we have already learned, right? See the part. So the rule of law, the transparency, the accountability, responsiveness, consensus oriented, equality, inclusiveness, effectiveness, participation, etc. And what is this concept of good governance going to help us? So I'll come back to the Chandler's the good governance index. But when you study about the good governance, see, remember what is the impact of good governance on? Usually the questions are come and the good governance comes from either you define about good governance, write the characteristics, or you write about the impact. See, these are the impact that I focus upon. It is again on a discipline. What are the impact? Again, this is a value laden approach. There is a value involved in it. This has emerged from the has influenced the emergence of multiple paradigms. So, what is good governance? It is basically we know that it involves all the multi stakeholders that is the people in a particular thing. So, how it influence PABAD as a discipline? Again, value added approach, including the values, again, influence the emergence of the multiple paradigms, research and studies into comparative administrations. So there are concepts which helped the discipline to grow. The good governance helped us to grow up. And what are the practices? Yes, there are a lot of in practical sense how good governance has helped public administration. Take an example of India. India has given a lot of initiatives after 1991 or the LPG era, or even after we adopted the governance, the good governance concepts. Let me take to other also in a global sense also. So HDI, again, Consumer Price Index, again, ease of doing business index, SDG administrative reforms. See, these are all the impact of good governance for the administrators. India has taken separate initiatives. For example, in order to promote transparency, accountability, we have improved RTI, we have introduced e-governance systems, we have introduced ease of doing business, we have introduced the GST, bankruptcy codes, we have introduced decentralization. For decentralization, we have introduced NITI Aayog, the 14th and 15th Finance Commission played a big part. Police reforms, we have been constantly trying. NITI Aayog has made a report on police reforms. Ask states to follow that if they need it. Aspirational district programs. See, good governance, these are the good governance initiatives that you can bring, give as an examples when it comes to a good governance questions. Even India has brought out something called the Good Governance Index. 2019, from 2019, we have a Good Governance Index. So something that we believe as good governance. There are, again, you can write certain examples where good governance have been issued. Again, what are the impact on the discipline? What are the impact on the practices? So this, what about this new current strategy that I want to say? What about the Chandler's Good Governance Index? See, this new Chandler's Good Governance Index focus on a multiple dimensions. Now, it covers almost 90% of the world population. So looks about different good governance indicators, and he says that leadership and foresight is one of the dimensions we look forward. Robust laws and practices, presence of strong institutions, financial stewardships, attractive marketplaces, global influence and reputations, helping people rise. So these are the areas where we focus on. But if we focus all these into three different dimensions, they said that there are three ways I am talking, only three things: rule of law, anti-corruption, and property rights. These are the three capabilities they were looking in particular for. The three essential foundations of good governance and national development by one of the leading institutions in as a good governance institute. So, ഒരു good governance പറയുന്ന സമയത്ത് എക്സാമ്പിൾ ആയിട്ടും റൂൾ ഓഫ് ലോയും പ്രോപ്പർട്ടി റൈറ്റ്സും ആന്റി കറപ്ഷനും ഒക്കെ എന്തുമാത്രം ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻ്റ് ആണെന്നുള്ളത് നമുക്ക് കാണാം. സോ മോസ്റ്റ്ലി വൺ ഓഫ് ദ വൈഡ്ലി ആക്സെപ്റ്റഡ് ഇൻഡെക്സ്. സോ എക്സാമ്പിൾ ആയിട്ടൊക്കെ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് പറയാൻ പറ്റും. ഇത്രയും അറിഞ്ഞാൽ മതി. ഈ slide മാത്രം അറിഞ്ഞാൽ മതി. That all the other slides were basically giving you a push or a context. So that's it from the good governance part. And before winding up, one last part also. See, when you talk, we are already discussed about the challenges of liberalization and privatization, right? So when it comes to the development model, or when it comes to a public administration approach, we all have studied about the top-down model, the bottom-up model, and the diagonal models. What are different models? There is also a new model that is very gaining tractions and popularity. Is the bottom of the pyramid model. So when it comes to questions of the developmental models the public administration should take forward, or what kind of idea the public administration should write or follow, or in the era of the liberalization, privatization, globalization, what approach the public administration should take place. So we can also write the bottom of the pyramid model, the BOP model. What is the bottom of the pyramid model? Again, idea by a person from idea, the C.K. Prahlad, but the idea of focusing on the focus on addressing the needs and improving the lives of the poorest and the most marginalized populations. Right. So the bottom-up model is basically the people at the lower at the bottom of the pyramid giving again instructions, giving the ideas to the people, right? So here is the bottom-up model. The bottom-up model basically talks about improving the lives of the poorest and the most marginalized populations in the society. The most people, the focus should be on the poorest of the poor people. And it basically says that the business and the policy makers should consider the economic potential and the development opportunities presented to this large segment of the population, presented by this large segment of the population. So the focus, if you can focus on the most poorest and the most marginalized sections, you can bring development. So this is the new model of that public administration should take place. So India has been, like all the countries have been taking this forward. True. So when it comes to the PDS programs, the we are giving the poorest and the most to the most marginalized, the Antyodaya, we are following this kind of concept, the bottom of the pyramid models. So whenever whenever the question comes up in the part two, in the development, any kind of particular scheme based idea you can put forward, you can say that the bottom of the pyramid models parameter. So you can use about what is the relevance. I will just conclude with the relevance. Again, inclusive development. Basically, it aligns with the core principles of public administration, inclusive development. Targeted service delivery, yes. Participatory governance, yes. We are including the most people, the most directly impacted people. Microfinance and enterprises, yes. The BOP model basically had the potential of and entrepreneurial and the microfinance to uplift the bottom of the population. Basically, you are talking about the needs they wanted. The focus will be on that particular population. So today, what I'm trying to say is countries like India, the developing countries like India, and a country with larger number of people living in a below the poverty line is focusing on not just the bottom up model, bottom of the pyramid model. So bottom of the pyramid model has to be understood. That is the reason why we identify the poorest of the poor, the marginalized sections, and that is the reason why we basically focus on the very the lowest tier of the pyramid. Technology innovation. See, all the technology, all the innovations to reduce the gap in service delivery, everything can be utilized to their part. For example, e-governance initiatives, technological solutions, okay, partnerships and collaborations with the NGOs, with the private sector. See, we can make sure that they are getting moved up. Their problems are solving. So we are focusing on the poorest of the poor and the marginalized. And this concept where you can use, I told you, if there's a question when it comes to the challenges of LPG or a way forward, you can say that bottom of the pyramid model can be used. That is the best method, focusing on the farm. Even in paper two also, yeah, can be, you can use all this. Right? Yes. So I think I've taken quite a good time of yours in dealing with this. So this is all about introduction. Don't just leave away. If you have suggestions, yes, this is idea. Yeah, normal again. Everyone, I just want your contribution. Whatever is it the way? So we tomorrow we're going to talk about thinkers. So it'll be much like how I dealt with Wilson. So this is how the application. The I'm not going to. So we're not going to explain as much I explained in the Wilson part because there are a lot of thinkers. We'll talk about the criticism, the particular keyword I'm going to. I'm not even going to even into the sentence. So I'll me or me or even Munisa will be talking about in such a way. So I will be here again. Please type or convey to me what is your idea about this because this is the first class. So I just want to know about what is the idea about. Yes. Okay. Yes, Nirmala has given me an idea. Yeah, sure. So what topics we are going to be revising? Can you list out some key words for each unit from each included in every answers? Your prediction for which topics would be likely to be unit. Possible to show good enough written answer copies and purpose particular answers. All right. Okay, fine. So there are a couple of things that he has mentioned. So I noted down anyway. Guys, others. Yeah, Vishnu, arrangements can be made. Done. one thing, one concept, probably it can be shared just before the class, not way ahead of the class, uh, because we probably might be revamping, adding certain things in the back. But we'll provide before starting the class. I can provide diagrams. Okay, I can do that. So we'll do that. Topics of revision. Uh, uh, One thing, normal predicting questions is not a safe thing to do. And I see, I have completely analyzed the questions from 2013 to 2022. Uh, Predicting question can be bit of worrying thing, but there's a pattern, not a regular pattern. I can show you the previous year questions and the tabular form and tell you that how things are coming up. So I'll ask him, Munisa also to do that. So how important diagrams and flow charts? Shami, see, not a lot of diagrams. Again, Abhinav has also talked about the idea about diagrams. Not a lot of diagrams can be drawn, but I'll show you. For example, in this particular question, I mean, topic you can write about this. See, Waldo's diagram, right? So, like that the idea of drawing that core and periphery and drawing some concentric circles, so showing that core and periphery, shading in the ideas. So so diagrams, yes, to an extent, you can draw that, but don't draw it, make it like a GS2 or a paper 2 examination. No. It when it comes in optionals, we do draw the diagrams, but we do not randomly drawing a lot of diagrams. I haven't seen in any toppers paper they are drawing a lot of diagrams. No. But whatever the potential is, again, potential to draw diagram will be right. Uh, a revision sheet. It's not like a cheat sheet. It is like a revision sheet. See, the basic stuff is you need to know that what kind of questions are they are basically asking. So if you want to make a see for those who are writing the mains, I will not ask you to suggest to prepare a sheet or any note right now because you don't have any time to do that. But the thing is, you can make a revision sheet. Uh, Only after kind of two revisions and understanding what kind of questions are coming. See, basically I know that scope question can be comes up in two part, activity and as well as a discipline part. So as an activity, I know what else things can be made. Whenever you prepare a short note, you prepare in a very concise manner. So the revision sheet making for public administration should be in a concise. For take an example of Wilson. So I have shown you a slide regarding Wilson, right? About that contribution, just the contribution there. That is a form of a revision sheet. Only that particular point where you know how to expand it. Either you can write a keyword, a line about it. For example, values and objectives of public administration, right? Efficiency, effectiveness, and effectiveness. So that's the idea. So why science? Because of the background of administration. Something you learned pretty well, just looking at that particular small sheet, you can develop it further. I won't advise people who are writing names to write prepare this because you don't have time. No, don't do that. What you have right now is read your notes, whatever it's stuff, and go for it. All right. Yes. So is there anything you can contact me? I hope you will know my number. Yes, just make a call. Uh, Again, messages goes lost. Please call if there is anything, any need. So either me or Munisa will be going to take the the second part, which will be the thinkers. So tomorrow we have 2 days for thinkers, which we will be dividing. So what are topics he's going to take? Because that was one suggestion. You need to know the topics prior to what we are going to take. We'll update tonight. Tonight we'll update in the group what are topics, what are things that tomorrow we are going to take. So we'll set that as a as our main map. All right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you.